All right, today we have Willie, and Willie and I met in a Warriors Befit group actually from Gordon. So uh you were on one night and you just man, you just spilled the beans about everything, right? And you know, I don't want to bring anything up or nothing. You can share whatever you like in this episode, but you had a lot to share, a lot you have experienced, and I get where you came from, and I understand what you're doing too to help people. So just start off with sharing who you are and what you are doing to help people right now.
All right, cool. Thanks. And John, first, I have to tell you, man, I'm so excited for you. And I thank you, for not just providing me with this opportunity, but everyone else that's been on the show. So, man, you're doing an amazing job. So I'm happy to be here to be in your presence. So I just want to thank you for that, first of all. All
You're
right.
welcome.
Like my name is Willie Nealy, and that is my real name. you know, People think that is a fictitious name because you know how it is. You can't come up in here on willy nilly. They that's not my real name. That is my real name. And yes, my wife will fight somebody over it if they just try to come out of pocket. But I'm a marriage and relationship coach, and I help people save their marriage, and I help them overcome infidelity. I help them overcome trust issues, communication issues, any challenges that they're faced with. So when they seek me out and we sit down, my first session with them is 100% free. And what we do is we explore, we find out exactly what challenges they are faced with, and then we come up with a game plan to overcome those challenges. And I always let all my clients know up front, are you going to do the work? On a scale from 1 to 10, how much are you going to, where are you going to be at to do the work? And if you're below an 8, then unfortunately we won't be able to work together because it's going to require work. A lot of people have a resolution, right? They have a resolution to the problem, but they don't have no action behind that resolution. So a resolution without actions is just that word, resolution, because you're not resolving anything if you don't put no action behind it. So I get with clients and I help them save their marriages. And I've had clients that's been married 27 years, 41 years, 5 years, 3 years. It's been all over the map, all
And
over the map.
you also help people that don't even have a marriage yet, right?
Yes, yes. I help people that are actually presently in relationships and that's having challenges prior to getting married. And I'm glad to say right now I have a perfect track record of people that sought me out prior to them getting married, and they've gotten married and it's successful. So that's a great thing. So the one thing that I always ask married couples and people that are in relationships, and this is something for your audience as well. I'm asking this question to them and to you. Prior to your marriage, did you and your wife ever form an agreement?
No, there is no such thing.
Yeah, and most people don't. Most people, they don't form an agreement prior to getting married or even being in a relationship, letting each other know their expectations, what they expect from a relationship or even a marriage. They don't even discuss it. They just say, hey, you love me, I love you, let's tie the knot and we'll figure this thing out. But think about it. If you actually form an agreement and you let each other know what those expectations look like, how more successful will your marriage and your relationship be? Because we go in assuming what that other person wants. We don't really know. We just assume, and they assume what we want. And then we get together and we got a big old mess. And what I'm saying, we don't know how to figure it out. We don't know how to communicate with each other. And then we just say, all right, we'll figure it out one day. And again, 41 years later, a couple that I have right now, and now they're trying to figure it out. 41 years. Could you imagine that? Being with somebody 41 years and never communicated with them effectively. And you're arguing over things like $60, laundry, you know.
Yep.
But if you know how to communicate, you wouldn't have those issues, wouldn't have those challenges. So when we get together, we just find ways to kind of tweak those things. That's those challenges. And that's the the fun part of it at times. But again, if no one is willing to put in the work, that's when we get the challenge. Because I let them know when we get in this thing, I don't come in with a magic wand, you know what I'm saying? And I don't have a crystal ball, you know, I don't have any of those tools, but I do have tools that can help you to communicate more effectively. And something else that I found in a lot of relationships and marriage, and this is one that's going to be funny. Have you ever heard of the 5 love languages?
Yes.
All right. Did you and your wife ever explore the book or anything like that?
Not really, no.
Okay. Now, that's good that you didn't, because I've had so many people say, oh, yeah, we got that book. Yeah, we read it. Yeah. His love language is this. Hers is this. Okay.
I read it.
See, it was either that way. One person read it, the other one don't. They know what the love languages are, but they don't speak to it. They don't implement it. They can say, oh, your love language is acts of service. And that's it. They know it's acts of service, but they don't know what to do to make you or have you to feel loved coming from them, to speak to that love language. I had a guy, this is so funny. His wife's love language, one of her love languages is words of affirmation. And he had words of affirmation. He's like, man, I don't know what to do with that. What do I do with that? So I asked his wife, I said, let me ask you something. If he came to you, because I don't want to say his name, but if he came to you and he said to you, baby, you are an amazing wife. You're an amazing mother. You're an amazing business partner. And I appreciate everything you do. And I appreciate how you show up for our family. I said, if he sent you that in a text message, if he put it on a sticky note, if he left you a voicemail, I said, would that speak to your love language for you? She said, absolutely. Absolutely. And I told him, I said, see, man, the thing is, we make it more difficult than it is. You know, it's not about having to recreate the world and you got to come up with all these big words to be able to affirm her, to be able to speak to her in a way that she will feel appreciated and speaking to her love language. I said, don't make it so hard. And I said, and then the easy thing is you can even ask her, okay, baby, what does that mean? Explain to me what that means. What does it mean if you're saying words of affirmation? What would you like to hear from me? And believe me, women are going to tell you, you know, she's going to tell you exactly. Well, I would like it if you did this. I like if you did that, you know? So it's all about communicating, talking, speaking, you know? So what I do is I provide couples with a lot of different tools to help them communicate more effectively, you know? And that's kind of, you know, that's the fun part of it. When we're able to get through all of the leaps and the bounds, and by the end of, you know, our sessions, when they've wrapped up the program, normally our last session is us, you know, laughing, you know, joking about things and stuff that we found funny, and it wound up being a blast.
Yeah.
But it does require work. It requires work. And if they're not willing to put in the work, then they're not going to get anything. That's just like life, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, if you don't mind, I can share with you as well a little bit about Willie.
Yeah, I want to know about Willie, because why would somebody want to come to Willie to help out with, you know, their relationship, right? Yeah,
all right, I'm
dive
glad.
into your journey, man.
I'm glad you asked me that, man. So my wife and I, we've been married over 16 years. But prior to us being married over 16 years, man, my life was not this great at all, not even close. So I was in the military for 4.5 years. And when I was in the military, I had my first daughter, and greatest time of my life, right? Had my first daughter, and I wind up getting married, because I got married because I want to make sure my daughter and my wife at the time was taken care of financially, and as far as insurance goes. So I didn't want to get out until I knew that they were good. My daughter now is 30, 31 years old. And we did this whole ancestry kit because my youngest daughter, who's 13, wanted to do it. And we did that. All of us was all excited. We're like, yes, let's do it. Let's do it. And got the results back. And she wasn't my daughter. My oldest daughter was not my biological daughter. So that's one of those things that I found out about now, which was probably about a year ago, that I had to realize that my journey, which I'm going to explain to you, the journey that I had, even though she is not my biological daughter, if everything didn't happen the way that it happened, there's a huge possibility I wouldn't be here now doing what it is that I do. Because my purpose is you. My purpose is other people. And my purpose is to be able to help them. So all of the things that I went through with her mom, if I had found out that she was not my biological daughter way back then, I probably wouldn't be here, most likely. So after that marriage was over anyway, and it wasn't due to me finding out about my daughter, because I just found that out recently, but there was a lot of things that was missing, and a lot of things in issues with communication and financial issues. We had a lot of financial issues. So from that, I discovered what I didn't want. When I was in that marriage, I discovered exactly what it is that I did not want out of a marriage. So as I started my life, my single life, and I got tired of the single life, and I said, you know what? I know what I don't want out of a marriage. So I know what I do want. So I want to strive for that. I want to strive for a partner. I want to strive for someone as a team player. I want to strive for someone that can love me, and I can love them just the same. You know, I can pour into them, they can pour into me. So that was my journey, right? And
Yeah.
I wind up meeting this beautiful, beautiful young lady, blonde, blue eyes. She looked like Barbie to me, right? She was like a Barbie, man. And she was so beautiful, but no one had ever told me that once somebody's so beautiful can be so insecure. Man, she was the most insecure woman I ever met. One day I got off of work and I walk in my front door and I had this long hallway. She was standing in the hallway like a serial killer. She was just standing there, man, just like, I need you to strip. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, okay, you know, so you know, the first time she said it, I'm like, what? That's crazy. But then I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go, right? It's just like, nah, that's not it. I was like, what do you mean? She's just like, oh no, I want to smell you from head to toe to see if you smell like soap or perfume. Soap or perfume. So man, she literally sniffed me from head to toe, my entire body. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And she was a woman that liked to wear body glitter, right?
Okay.
The next day, we had a little argument about that. Next day, she took her bath, had her body glitter and everything like that, got up the next morning, seen glitter on me, and was like, who the hell you been with? I'm like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? And we literally had an argument, almost a physical fight, because she wants to swing and hit and everything. And I had to literally go in the bathroom, grab the body glitter and say, this is yours. This came from you. Do you think she apologized? No. So after that, I said, you know what? This is another relationship I do not want. I don't want this. So those two relationships, I learned some things. I learned what it is that I really didn't want. And I seen what insecurity looked like. I seen what insecurity felt like. And there were some physical confrontations, because of the fact that she wanted to get physically abusive towards me, because all of her past relationships were all physical abusive. Every man she was with, beat her. I didn't. So she was trying to force me to beat her as well, because for her, that's what love looked like. That's not what love looked like for me. So I learned from that, and so I said, you know what? It's time for a fresh start. I need a fresh start. So I had a cousin that stayed out in Las Vegas, where I live now. And she said, hey, cuz, come on out here. What it is that you do is booming out here. Come out here, you can get a job easy. So I said, all right, cool. I'll figure it out, So I came out, and when I came out, dropped my resume everywhere, man. I was like Oprah. I was like, you get a resume, you get a resume, you get a resume, right? So I'm just spreading, just blanketing Vegas with my resume, right? By the time I get back to Michigan, I get a phone call. It's like, hey, can you start today? I'm like, nah, I'm out in Michigan. I can't start today. It's like, all right. And my phone was literally blowing up all week long. And I was like, you know what? I need to get out to Vegas. So I put my house for rent, put it up for rent. And during this whole transition thing, when I came out the very first time, this was like the second time I came to Vegas, but during those times, my cousin introduced me to her girlfriend. She was cute as a button, right? So I was like, you know what? I want a fresh start. Met this cute little young lady. I'm like, I'm just going to do it. So I stood in my living room, and I was like, I said, God, I said, you know what? I need this fresh start. I said, I need this fresh start. I said, I met someone, and that's what I prayed for. She seemed like she'll be a team player. I'm like, Lord, okay. I said, if it's meant for me to be there, let all of the pieces fall where they're supposed to fall. And I said, and God, I don't care if you take everything from me. I don't care if you take everything from me. Just provide me with the woman of my dreams that can be that team player, so I can start to build my life, with someone, and just start moving forward. That's what I want. That's my desire. You told me you'll give me the desires of my heart. My desires is to have a woman that I can make my wife and start building a life together. And so I was like, boom, cool. Bounced out to Vegas, right? Bounced out to Vegas without a job. Okay. So I got to Vegas on a Friday. Got to Vegas on a Friday. That Tuesday, I got a call for another job. And once I got that call for that other job, I'm like, all right, Lord, you did it. That's it. You hear me. We hear it, I'm like, all right, let's go. And so then that just even made my belief that this woman that I met was in alignment with that as well. So I'm like, all right, cool, bet, let's do it. And started working. Job was good. And I just kept excelling as far as the job goes. And then, you ever seen that? You ever seen or heard of that movie called The Devil Wears Prada?
Yes.
Yeah, I was dating her. Yeah, so that's So man, when I tell you, this woman was the worst woman I ever met in my entire life. Oh my God! But the bad part for me is in that moment, at that time, I never loved anyone as much as I had loved her.
Okay.
I felt madly in love with her, just madly in love with her. And so we start our relationship, right? This woman was a narcissist. I'll never forget one day, she used to drive the buses out here in Vegas, right? So one day, I'm sitting up here paying all of the bills. And one day she was like, I need some new shoes. And I'm like, okay. She's like, but these are the shoes I want. I was like, baby, those shoes are $110, and this was my wife and I have been married over 16. So this was like 17, 18 years ago. So I'm like, no, I'm not paying $110. I said, I've seen some other Nikes that all you're doing is sitting down riding the bus, right? She works some overtime, and then she go and buy her those $110 shoes. And I'm like, wait a minute, we got bills. And she's like, well, I worked for these. I'm like, what is it? What do you think I work for? I don't get to spend the money I make on me or anything I like. I got to pay the bills. And I'm doing this for you and your kids. We don't even have any kids together. She had 2 kids. And I'm like, but I'm making sure the household is good. And you telling me because you work overtime, you get to do what you want with it. But when I work overtime, that money got to go to the bills. And she's like, yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be. You think I left? Nah, I didn't. I still
another lesson coming, right?
Yes. So I stuck around. And about 3 times she left. She would, I mean, we were living together, but she would go out and won't come home. This last day, I never forget, she left. Didn't come home. Was calling her. She wouldn't answer her phone. Texting her. She wouldn't respond. Went and called the police. Called hospitals. Looking for her. Trying to find her. Nothing. Went to her mom's house to see if she was parked at her mom's house. She wasn't there. In this moment, man, I was done. I was done. And I said, you know what? I'm having all these challenges with child support. Right now, I can't handle it. I'm done. So I went and I grabbed my my grandfather's .38 revolver. And I went inside my truck. And I took the gun and I put it to my head. And I sat there crying and couldn't find myself to pull the trigger. And when I couldn't pull the trigger, I said, this is it for me. I'm out. I'm still done. So I get in my truck. I drive to CVS. And I went and got the strongest sleeping pills that they had. I get back to the condo. I pour the pills out on the bed. And I started taking them one by one until I took almost half the bottle. And then I called her. I said, hey, you ain't got to worry about me no more. You ain't got to worry about me no more. I'm out. I'm checking out. By the time you come back to the condo, since you never want to come home, you're going to find me dead. I'll be dead when you get here. So she called the ambulance. And as I'm sitting on the bed, crying, I get a knock at the door. I go to answer it. And they're like, do you have a weapon in the house? And I was like, yes. And he's like, where is it? So I took them to where the gun was. And they seen the pills on the bed, almost basically an empty bottle. They grabbed the bottle, they said, did you take these? And I was like, yes, I did. They said, how many? I said, you see how many's left? So they immediately put me in the ambulance, took me to the hospital. Now, in that moment when they took me to the hospital, I never threw up. They never pumped my stomach. They shoved me in a room and they gave me some chalky stuff to drink to try to make me throw up, but I still never threw up. And when they put me in that room, I never fell asleep. Out of all of the pills I took, I never fell asleep. Never fell asleep. Never threw up. And then they came back with blood work and they said, we don't know what's going on, but we can't find any traces of those pills in your system. that moment, I knew that there was a purpose for my life. I knew that there was a purpose for my life. There was a reason that I was saved. And I started to realize that all of that stuff that I was going through and I'd been through, I survived those things. It wasn't for me. It was for me to be a blessing to somebody else. It's for me to live for someone else as well as myself. So after that, after, I got out of the hospital, I lost everything, by the way. Dealing with her, I lost everything. I was literally homeless. I was sleeping in my truck. And during all of this, everything that was going on, and like I said, the job that I had got, I was putting in communication systems in all of the Walmarts that's here in Vegas, right? And during that time, there was this beautiful woman, man, beautiful woman that I met, her and her sister. We used to call them twins, right? And I met her, and I was just like, we became friends, And during that process of us becoming friends, we started to build something while I was going through something. And the ironic part is, as I was going through something, she was going through something too. She was going through something with her present boyfriend that was a jerk. And here it is, I'm almost mimicking the same thing with the woman I was dealing with. So we both decided that we're getting out of those relationships, those toxic, horrible relationships, dealing with these narcissistic people that didn't give a damn about us. And she went to her dad and said, hey, this guy, Willie, he's a good guy. He's just fell on some bad luck. He has no way to stay. Do you mind if he comes and stay with us a little while until he can get on his feet? Dad didn't know me from Adam. And he said yes. And this was the only woman at the time. I had 4 kids. This was the only woman that celebrated me on Father's Day, and we didn't even have any kids together. Celebrated me. She wound up being my light. Mm-hmm. She wound up being my light in the darkness. And when she decided to be my light in the darkness, that's when I discovered and realized that I needed to be the light for others in this world of darkness. Just like you're their light as well. And your light is shining through. And that's what we all have to do. We all have to realize and embrace that light that's within us and let it overtake the darkness. Because light can always overtake dark. Dark can't overtake light, right? So my wife, who's my wife now, is the young lady I'm talking about. And we decided that we wanted to start building a future together. And it's been an amazing, amazing journey. And I realized that she is who God had waiting for me. She is the one that was meant to be in my life and to be my partner. But I also needed to go through everything that I went through to be able to be the man that I needed to be for her and for myself, and to be able to be a blessing to everyone else. Because I have not found not one couple that came to me and went through something that I hadn't been through. So when they come to me and they have issues, they have challenges, they talk about attempting suicide. Oh yeah, I did that. And I know where my mind was in that moment at that time that I did that. So I can relate, I understand. When you say you suffered through psychological abuse, I know what that feels like. Yeah, I've been there. Physical abuse, yep, I've been there. Emotional abuse, yes, I experienced that. Psychological abuse, yep, wrote a book about it. And that's real talk, I did.
Yeah.
I'm like, so I went through all of those things so that I can be a blessing to other people, and so that I can show up the way they need someone to show up and support them. Because that's what a lot of people feel, that you ain't gonna understand. You're not gonna know my pain. You're not gonna know the things that I went through. You're not gonna know what I've experienced. You can't understand that. But I'm glad to say that I can.
Mhm.
And each one of them, I was able to relate. And that was the thing that has helped them. And they still help me too. But I know that God brought me through all of that to be where I am. And I will tell anybody, if I had to do it all over again, knowingly that I would get the results that I got now, I would knowingly do it all over again and do it exactly the same way. Because at the end of the day, the beautiful wife that I have, the amazing life that I have, the amazing wife that I have, my beautiful 13-year-old daughter, man, I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. So if I knew I had to go through all of that all over again to get here, I'd do it. You know, especially from marriages I help save. And it's not about me. It's about providing them with the tools in order for them to save their marriages. I'm just a light. I'm just a light. I'm just lighting the path for them to help bring them out of the darkness. And that's, you know, that's basically my story, man.
Well, thankfully, you did not commit suicide, and you are here to share your story, right? Um, I have to say, if you didn't go through the stuff you did go through, you would have walked right by your wife now. She would have probably did the same thing with not her going through what she was going through at the same time. So yeah, fortunately and unfortunately, however you want to look at it, you have to go through something to learn something and carry through with it. Now, that being said, a lot of people don't learn something and don't change. The narcissistic people, whatever, they might stay that way, right? And they're just gonna jump from one to another, and that's just where they're gonna be. But
Mhm.
if they open up and go, hey, I want to make a difference, and they can learn. They can reach out to people like yourself, and start to take in some information about changing relationships, or read the five language book, or something, right? You just got to start somewhere. Wow. Um, I'm glad you were vulnerable and willing to open up and share all that, it's and it's not just about men too, with the mental health stuff, where you're close to committing suicide. It's everybody, a lot of people go through it, and it's unfortunate, but it's also something that not just relationships, but society itself has put a lot of people into that position. So yeah, I'm grateful to have you here with me talking now and sharing all this, and and how you can help other people. Is there like other recommendations that you would say to what people that are having issues in their, say, marriage or any kind of relationship? I know you mentioned communication, right? So what would be like one step, I guess, in the communication area? How would you, just off the top of your head, what's one idea?
Well, one thing that I will have people do when it comes to communication, it's a simple technique that I'm going to share two of them with you. And one of them is called the mirroring technique, right? And the mirroring technique is basically repeating exactly what your spouse has said to you back to them. And this way, they feel heard, and you wind up actually understanding what they're saying. Example of that is if Jimmy is coming home from work and his wife says, "Hey, baby, on your way home, could you please stop by the store and pick up some milk?" And Jimmy says, "Okay, sweetheart, what I heard you say is on my way home, stop by the store and get some bread." And she says, "No, Jimmy, baby, what I said is on your way home, could you please stop and pick up some milk?" And Jimmy said, "Okay, what I heard you say is to get some cigarettes and get some milk." "No, baby. What I said is, when on your way home, could you please stop and pick up some milk?" He said, "Oh, okay. What you said and what I heard you say is, on my way home, stop and get some milk." "Yes, baby, that's exactly what I said." That is a way of communicating effectively, because now Jimmy actually wind up hearing what you said and understanding what you said, the wife feels heard, because a lot of times somebody wind up not being heard. The two biggest problems in all relationships, when they are problems, is someone not being heard and someone's need not being met. Those are the two biggest challenges. So when you can actually be heard, that alleviates one of those challenges. And when you come to fulfilling your partner's need, you need to ask the question, what is love to you? What makes you feel loved? How would you like to be loved? Instead of assuming. Because every single couple that I've dealt with, when I asked the wife, I said, how do you go about loving your husband? Oh, I know what he like. I know what he want about. Okay, well, tell me, how do you go about loving him? How do you know exactly what it is that he wants? Well, I know him, I said, okay, have you ever asked him how he would like to be loved? Well, no, I don't need. I said, what makes you feel you don't need to ask that? Because aren't you just going off assumptions? Yes. So ask your partner what loves look like to them, how they would like to be loved. What are their expectations when it comes to a relationship or a marriage? Don't be afraid to ask the questions. That's why I talk about the agreement. Form an agreement before you get married. Form an agreement. And if you are married now, form an agreement on what it is that you both want out of the marriage, what you want out of the relationship, what a successful one looks like. And then you start making building blocks to get to it. And that's where you should start. And my program that I have, we go through, is a lot, but we go through the stages on building your love house. We start on the foundation, and then we start putting up walls, and then we wind up putting the roof on. And we even start filling it with furniture, right? So once we get there, we start with a simple thing, that's the request versus requirement, and that's another piece of it that we go through. And a lot of couples find out a lot of things about themselves and their partners when we go through that. And that's the very first thing that we do. Cool. I hope I answered your question.
What's that?
I said, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just a way for somebody to start communicating, right? And that's and it's not hard. It's just people feel awkward, I guess, presenting it and doing the work. Because they do make the assumptions, like you said, or they pass by in the hallway and they say something and you're supposed to go, okay, I got it, and you're like, you have no idea. Like, you have to be clear about it, right? Stop, let's talk, sit down and have a discussion about it. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't want to have those discussions, the conversations, whatever you want to call them. And that's where the trouble comes in. So those I think are the conversations and the discussions or whatever. I think they're the people that have gone through stuff like yourself, come on the other side and go, I want this. And then the other person that you connect with goes, I want that too. Because they went through the same BS to get to where they are today with you, Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. Willie, how does somebody connect with you, to work with you, or to get to learn a little bit more about what you do offer and what you can do to help with their relationships?
Okay, so the name of my company is Divine You, and that's DEVINE, the letter U. So you can go to divineyou.com, and then you can book me there. And you also can go to, if you wanted to send me an email, you can Coach Nealy at divineyou.com. So Coach Nealy at divineyou.com is a way that you can email me. You can also find me there on Facebook with Coach Nealy, and also on Instagram. So if anybody looked up Coach Nealy, Divine You at Divine You, they'll find me. Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. So I have one quick question. I know you shared a whole bunch of information, about your journey and even how to help people with relationships. But what are 3 key things you've learned and used along your journey?
The 3 key things that I've learned is not to assume exactly what love looked like for someone else. Just because I know what I want, that don't mean that I know exactly what she wants. So it's all about asking questions, right? And so that's one thing that I definitely learned not to do. And also to be positive and recognize and notice my energy, because I believe that the energy that we put out is the energy that we'll receive. So if you put out negative energy, negative vibes, guess what? That's what you're going to get in return. So to find the keys to be able to stay positive and also move in a positive way. The third thing is what you probably heard me say a couple times is recognizing your light and knowing that there's a light within all of us. And the brighter you shine, the more people you are going to be able to help. And then by you being able to shine bright, then it even helps yourself. It even boosts your own confidence, because we all are here to serve. And for me being in the military, I know what it's like to have a mission. And everyone that I come encounter with, they are my mission. So I have learned to recognize that and to just be present, and always ask questions, man. I always ask questions. I don't assume, because, you sit there and assume you can be completely wrong. And I've just heard it and seen it so many times. And I want to, if you don't mind, I just want all men, because I see it a lot, to know and understand we deserve love too. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to have what it is that you want out of a relationship or a marriage. You deserve that. You deserve happiness, because so many men show up and like, well, I just supposed to pay the bills. I'm supposed to take care of everything. And that's it. My feelings does not matter. Your feelings matter. You having love in your life matter. We are all human, and we're human first. So, hey, you deserve love. So don't let nobody take that away from you.
You're right. Absolutely right. Willie, they were all great things that you shared there. And again, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey in life. I look forward to hearing more about you and, who you're helping and, the relationships you're growing. Hopefully you're helping people that really want help and to keep that relationship going. So thank you very much.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. And like I said, I really, truly appreciate it. And I feel blessed and honored to be in your presence. Because like I said, man, I just see so many amazing things and so many doors opening for you. And I'm telling you, already, I'm your biggest fan, So,
all right, I got one.
So I want you to know that, you know what I mean? So I appreciate you. And you having me, man. That means the world to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you coming on.
All right. Thanks, man.